Welcome, people. It's your girl. Let's get blissed out. A little bit of music. Let's enjoy it. Magical. And it's Leanne. I'm cueing in with a little bit of music. It's one of my favorite songs. I've got an artist in front of me who is multi-talented, community leader in the making, also reflecting me as a brother from another mother from another lifetime. Welcome to Blisstout Network's podcast number 9 with Daniel Bennington. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing great. I am.
Good to be with you always.
You too.
So, yeah, viewers, while you're watching us, a little reminder that we are prepping for an event in April 25th, 2021. We had one in December and Daniel was in there. Daniel's been live in the network. So there's a ton of information that you can scroll through just to get to know more after this interview, after you have a chance to see it. And if you're seeing it in the future or even after all this, we want you to enjoy what a wonderful opportunity it is to lead what I call my 3 pillars of business: creativity, music, and wellness, and helping people to thrive in their everyday life. So whether you're coming into the show today and you're able to watch it when I post it, you're coming in the future, if you can't see us, you can hear us, hopefully the mics are good, and that you get some wonderful content that can help reshape your moment here and now. And that's what it's all about. We want to make sure that we're setting an example not only for ourselves, but for others. So Daniel, tell us a little bit about why you are a personal consultant. We want to know about it.
Oh, good question. Well, why I am a personal consultant is I have developed these tools and strategies over 10 years plus of self-development. And why I operate is to help move and empower and transform people from the inside out. So why I consult is someone to be as meant to be a guide. I am meant to be someone for an impeccable amount of trustworthiness so that we can really actually support one another, see where we want to improve daily, when we want to make little mini micro improvements. Sometimes we want to take big strides. And why I do that is from a sense of, it's just really love. That's exactly why I do that, because when we release trauma, we become more loving. It's pretty simple in that way, but we also become more of who we actually are without these limiting conditions. So that's why I like to call it as a personal consultant. There's certain connotations around calling yourself a coach, so I still may go from that term, but really embracing the personal consultant, especially in the business world these days. People do look exactly at the conscious word choice that you use because some of those people operate on that A type of level of exactly how you speak and everything like that, so that everything lands in the body.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate that. And I think that you being you and being a healer in aspects of conscious perspective, I think that this is an opportunity also for the listeners and to the viewers to appreciate the reflection of how that can impact a moment. And I think you do that really well. So next question I want to get to is, what work education have you done on yourself? So getting you to be a personal consultant, let's open up the doors as to how that all happened, and where have you done the work that that you have something to offer people from within, and I guess from a business perspective.
Beautiful. Well, in my teens and early 20s, was enthralled and involved in community style peer leadership groups and programs through, at that time, Camp Alexandra, the high school I went to, and sort of even like parks and rec offerings of these style of workshops was the only thing I could find at that time, 18 years ago, and started I did take the sports science diploma with a minor in psychology, sociology, and anthropology and essay writing. So I come from a family of writers, and I just happen to be someone that's a little bit more expressive like my father. So I have a sports science diploma. I have 150 plus workshops I've done. I have 2 illumination intensives I did in Warrior Sage, which I'd say one illumination intensive taught me more than maybe 2 years of schooling in a regular education school. That's just truth. I mean, when we actually can let go a lot of the self-limiting beliefs, then truth just becomes us. We don't have to read it. Although it's good to be educated, I do value education and I do read quite a bit. But if we can't feel the change in our body, if it doesn't land for us and we're just speaking words, like I really do like David Goggins right now, people just speaking, just flapping their lips. And we want the passion behind the words. We want it to reach. We have to have it to land. Well, what is the actual point? So 150 workshops. I did the breathwork training, level 1, level 2, advanced with Carmen Gann, Jen Field, and Robin Clements. Then I did level 2 pneumosematics breathwork with Trevor Yelich, and I did the 6-month bodywork certification program through the Vancouver School of Healing Arts. So understanding what it takes to be a true professional as a body worker, and a mix of about 6 or 7 different modalities through that schooling. So all of that has helped me to understand kind of where I am. I have a life certification program through the Transformational Academy, and that was just an online learning, as a lot has been online learning lately. And then I was also used to be a coach, so I have NCCP level trainings to coach sports, which kind of evolved into, hand in hand with music a little bit, and now acting, like embodiment practices, self-expression practices. So I have now led workshops for the last 2.5 years on everything from emotional intelligence to relationships, and also doing ceremonies, helping to bring community together. Even now, still doing some ceremonies with cacao, sometimes with psilocybin, and with there's a variant of ceremonies that I offer with a very trusted friend of mine, Asaya Hart. So I'm very selective about who I work with as a practitioner and where their intentionality is coming from and how much self-work they've done to not come from distorted ego.
Sounds like a lot of awareness. Like what's coming through me while I listen to you is there's a lot of beautiful, deeper work that you've done to connect to awareness, which led you to getting more further educated in order to share how to help other people be aware of themselves. So it sounds really, really powerful. And I commend you on a lot of the work that you've done on yourself in order to be receptive and prepared to support others. It's very nice of you.
It's not linear from what I understand.
And
credentials are wonderful and it's amazing. And I have some, but someone that can truly impact your life is just who that person actually is. And a lot of us, I think in the old paradigm, value credentials and lettering behind the words rather than, oh, I just had a conversation with you and you gave me more value than someone perhaps with a PhD. I'm not trying to say it's any less or more than, it's just actually who that person is and how they operate. That is the value truly in the teaching.
And holding space, which I know you do really well. So those are important little things, other than all the listeners that are listening to his education background and the work that he's done on himself is really the opportunity to hold space for somebody else and then be receptive with the knowledge that he's gained. So I think that's a great awareness there.
I mentioned that I've had 10 plus years of ceremony. That's more so been quite a bit impact from sacred plant to just breath work to sweat lodges. So I'm very much so more in ancient wisdom and understanding of ritualistic practices, even though I have a background in Western culture in education.
I think both of them are important, and I think that that's what helps us to attract more people multidimensionally. So that's wonderful, and I think that that's what's going to bring you different type of business. So I'm excited for you. On that note, what therapies do you offer?
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. What therapies do you offer?
Thank you. I do offer breath work and body work in a different range of sessions offered within the body work. Breath work is somewhat its own experience, and the breath work kind of it stands for itself because it's such a powerful tool. So that is where you do need to hold the really deep emotional space. And in fact, so on the masculine side for men, I have to be incredibly comfortable with my emotions. So lifting, oh, I raped someone or something, like, yep, you got to be comfortable with holding that space to uplift the armoring from the man of the damage that they usually have caused from their unconsciousness. And on the feminine aspect, it is the depth, typically, not always, but the depth of the emotional capacity to show up, because men are usually dealing with the abandonment issues, women more in the invasive issues. So what I offer is breath work and body work and personal consulting, sometimes in packages. Some like to do it. Some just like to book only breath work. Some like to do breath and body, and we switch. And so why personal consulting is a little bit newer for me, but also I offer on my website like couples massage. So I go to couples' homes and I teach them sensual massage for each other. I've just started, it's a new inception of an offering just a few months ago. And so that's pretty exciting. And then I do have a couple of female clients that I work with tantrically. So I'm helping them to sensually connect to their own body, for their own radiance, for their own confidence, to understand their true sexuality. And that takes a lot of protocols in place and how we handle certain agreements because of the nature of the sensitivity of being in that place of offering, as a facilitator.
As a witness, yeah. Powerful. When you were mentioning about holding space for men, I kind of like that. Before I get to the next question, because I feel like you could go a little bit deeper in that. Having somebody who's victimized somebody or who's been victimized, helping them through a process of healing. It's a very powerful process. It sounds like holding space for that with methodologies. Can you talk a bit more of that? Because I think that, people are growing and learning every day. And I feel that as a healer myself, I've had to hold space for a lot. Like, people don't realize, as much as women have been through this word rape that you used, men have been through that. And over the years, just being a vessel and being a yoga teacher and a healer, even just showing up to a class, I'd have people, after a meditation or after meeting me without even knowing me, just feel like they could really be themselves and they really had something within them that they could let go of. And I think you just touched something there, and I didn't hear enough about it, that people need to understand that as a wellness practitioner in the community, or as somebody who's done work on themselves, whether we're in a moment being a practitioner, because we've done our work on ourselves, it just arrives. And I think maybe you can shed a little bit of light on what that means for you, because it sounds like you were holding space for people that have victimized others or who've been victims. So what is your feeling about that?
That's a great question. I'm going to answer some things that came to mind in it. So I'll touch a bit on that background, that I was a care aide for 11 years, dealing with a man that had cerebral palsy and was quadriplegic. So dealing with someone on a very, very close level, understanding their psyche. And then I studied psychosomatics. So I have quite a deep understanding of where we hold particular emotions and in the body, to do with our organs, to do with muscles. And so if we connect psychosomatically to a particular area, and then we pierce first, and then we hold the presence of deep emotional space for what may come up, that's how it can be released. They have to trust that person in the room, facilitating to the utmost degree, And the more open-mindedness and heartedness that that individual can receive is exactly how deep that they can receive. Otherwise, it's just armoring. So for men, if they rage and they get very angry, I know how to protect myself, because that can come up in breath work. Right? We can go into, it hasn't fully happened yet, like they're not throwing punches at me, but understand that if we reciprocate and block any sense of the, let's say, lower vibe emotions like rage, anger, or we get triggered by it, then we are doing an injustice to the session. So it has to be complete compassion and an ability to know exactly what area of the body to go to release that. And then hold the presence of my heart throughout it, so that they're just like, oh, yeah, I fully trust I can let go no matter what. This person's been through the depth of the suffering that I have, and they can relate experientially in this moment, so I can release.
And that trust factor is there automatically. I think when you're doing your work too as a practitioner, helping others, we got to clear ourselves, make our vehicle available, so that reflection and having that soundboard can help others to release and feel human, because it's a human experience. So I commend you for that. And I'm glad that came up. It wasn't really part of all of our questioning, but I know that it's something I know about you as we've connected, and I know your energetic healing powers. And I'm glad that you start talking about pressure points, because, as a healer, simply tapping into an area, we're able to release. And this is the methodology that I think your client or somebody that would be listening to us today would want to know more about too. So I'm great these things are coming up for us. Now, with the next question, because these Q&As always come pre-ready, how is it being a male providing healing arts methods as a practitioner? How's it being male? I know what it's like to be a woman, but what is it like being a man on that receiving
Oh
end?
my. Well, how many do you know personally that are stepping in or doing in this field? I don't know too many. I know some, and I know who have a different variance of what they offer in terms of being a facilitator, or some of them calling them sexological body workers or tantric workers, just massage in general. I'd say I only know a couple in Vancouver. There's probably lots, because some of us are kind of more underground, under the surface. But I'm one that's like wanting to reach a lot of the masses, right? Like that's the capacity of which I feel I want to make my impact. So it took me, it took a couple of hippie parents growing up to understand that we grew an emotionally free, somewhat family. So it wasn't all about drive and career and linear kind of focus, or conquering, domineering in the field. More so an understanding of, what it takes to be free in who you are, right? So that's why I did slowly become a body worker. And I'll touch that I did work at the Children's Foundation as my last sort of social worker job in that main education field that I a little bit burned out in, dealing with fetal alcohol syndrome and autism and ADHD, complex learning disabilities in children. And so that's what helped propel me to embrace this. And then also, I would say I had a very incredible mentor, Chris Fletcher, who's my half brother, that has this capacity and just trusted so much in community for his heart and his awareness to help others. He's a counselor as well. So growing up in this family that were sort of counselors, writers, helped me understand myself in a deeper way. And that's the kind of person that I am. Like, I understand that it's being male. I still keep my edge in it, right? So I don't just do without my personal identity of self within the session. You know how some people, like, I become the vessel? That is absolutely amazing. I'm also a vessel, but like, I have myself in the session as well, right? I don't want to lose who I am in that. Even being a male, that is the capacity of presence that I can hold, not just necessarily spiritual presence, right? It's an embodied presence. So my I have to be very acute of knowing where to go and administer care in the body. And that has come from being a clairsentient empath. So I'm very empathic to feelings. I can feel it. It was a curse for a lot of my life. And now it's become a lot of my gift so that I can touch in to people and read them pretty deep upon meeting them. And, usually we just want to have, I'd say, the main 4 energy centers of our body, or awareness of our body, which is our groin, our solar plexus, our heart, and our mind, or our third eye open. And so that's where I'm reading into where usually there needs to be a sense of presence and a sense of this acupressure touch in certain areas. So why I am a body worker, a male breath worker, body worker, and why I continue to be that, even with, after the Me Too movement and everything, it's a highly sensitive time. And there's a lot of backlash upon men that were causing damage, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes consciously, sometimes causing trauma, and the amount of people and the amount of women I meet and everything, like, it's even worse than we think it is. 9 out of 10 is going to have trauma, and probably about 3 or 4 out of 10 is going to have very deep trauma. And the problem is we don't really usually have the capacity to we don't have the proper forums all the time to speak about this, because people think by being vulnerable and being weak, especially men. And for women, it's more like, I want to release this from my body. I have no idea how, but it's usually a suppression and repression of emotion, right? Mm. So that's why I became a male body worker and breath worker. Now I got accepted in the full-time program to become a professional actor. And all of these things as a multi-potentialite have served me. I've actually got a lot of, I got a lot of flack. I get a lot of men challenging, like, you don't know what you're doing. You keep growing and changing who you are and keep developing. And I just I don't understand that rhetoric, but you get a lot of the beration for men about integrity and respect of, like, knowing and defining who you are, right? So that they have a lot of this, like, they make fun of each other until, like, it's challenge, right? But the problem in that with the men is that the challenge sometimes comes from disrespect, because it's actually how they feel about themselves. So if men grow and we become bigger and become, more of who we truly are, they become intimidated. So rather than loving, men come from sometimes disrespect or challenge from their own ineptitude.
So like unconscious to consciousness. So yeah, I had this conversation yesterday with another conscious man, and I feel this is where, I find the middle way. I find, like, being a connector and having that awareness. I listen to men, and I see this for conscious men that are coming into their empathetic, in tune with their feminine side too, and that they're integrating. I think that there's a whole new world that's being created because of this. But we do what my advice in that moment, because of the integration process of the wholeness, is we create everything, right? So I'm just putting this out there in this moment, because in that moment I said to this person I was having lunch with yesterday, the same thing that's coming from you. And I love men so much. I love to empower men, is that we need to hold space for the change by just being a good listener as a man. Like, if my inner male is so strong, because I've raised 2 young men on my own now, 18 and 20, that I feel, talking to you about this and why the importance of it is because I'm just as a man for 20 years being the mother and father as any other man out there. I did all the soccer games, everything like that. So I don't want to go too much into this. I just wanted to reflect on the beauty of the consciousness that you're talking about and the importance of holding space for unconscious men and conscious men, and allowing the nature of the growth just by leading. And you're a great leader, right? So we'll get into talking about that leadership, because I know we talked a little bit about the thriving, how your music and acting is presently playing a role in your life regarding to, being a person consultant. I think because you're thriving. Let us know a little bit about that, but I'd like to get more also into your leadership, because this is the role that you're playing as a conscious man. And I love that, how it just effortlessly happens. So tell us a little bit about your music and your art, because I know you're an amazing drummer. You're working on your voice and some acting right now. You just got approved, right?
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's like some of my alter ego self, right? Some of my extra personality comes out in my drumming. I've been drumming for 25 years. It's the longest term thing I've ever done in my life and continue to do. I'm a professional drummer. I played in various cover bands. 3 years ago, I played in 7 bands,
Wow.
and that just, it was an overload. It wasn't necessary. I've narrowed it down to my hometown band, my brother's Hunting Giants. So we released an EP 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, a 5-song EP. We got nominated for the Western Canada Music Awards. We got to go up to a huge industry panel and stay for 5 days and learn from professional industry um, professionals and learn what it takes to do in the music industry. That's a different conversation because I have a load of knowledge of how to save time and be effective as a musician and get your music valued and get it out there. So that's a huge one. And that's why drumming has, I didn't know, but at that time, starting 12 years old, I had this affinity with drumming, like the drive and the energy. I was this
Mm.
very energetic kid. And so it helps me so much because also when you're training the body to all 4 of your both hands and feet to have their own independent movements of one another, it trains both the left right brain hemisphere at the same time. So I've really loved how like neurobiology or like the understanding of you know uh, just science in general has helped me as a musician. And drumming is a massive creative outlet. Like you can let so much out through drumming. So I really do recommend people trying drumming, like literally just like you're in your car and you just tap along to the music and to the rhythm as best you can. If you did that for like a few years, you would feel the cadence and the tempo of the tone in the body so that you could play along and feel more embodied in the music. Of course, singing is huge for this too, which I've really been embracing, but drumming is its own entity. And I did teach lessons for a couple of years with kids. It's just at this time and age, it's like I don't have a full space yet, but I will in mid-April to make massive amounts of noise in the South Surrey area here, where I'm going to be actually like wanting to host people, and I'll have all my drums set up, and people can come enjoy community music events. So I'm really stoked about to have this more studio space to be totally expressive and loud, because I think a lot of us are unconsciously kind of like, think about it living in Vancouver. Like no noise, no pets, no nothing outside of the box. Oh, you're making a bit of noise. Oh, sorry, you can't live here in Vancouver. Like I'd say 90% of places are very shut down and don't want anything to happen. And so this is causing a lot of restriction for us, and why drumming just blows that out of the water.
Mm.
That's why I love it. It's loud and it can be obnoxious, but it's actually healing and is therapeutic.
And do you feel also when you're using both hands, I think from the masculine perspective, I mean, I guess you can move catharsis with it as a method, for part of your healing. Do you ever suggest that to your clients?
As I do body work, some of my female clients, when I'm doing something called tapotement, which is a variance of different types of strokes on the body, on the back, after we do deep tissue work, I am breaking up the fascia in the body. I am moving all like the cells. I'm flushing out the system. They love it. And so that's kind of like a very stimulating thing. And some of them do mention, and I have noticed that because it is actually rhythmic therapy, it's like in time, they appreciate it in a different way, and it feels and lands in their body deeper.
Very nice. All right. So what is the importance of your contribution with Blisstout Network, and how is it helping you to thrive in your own network? So now that we've been connecting, how is this inspiring you through Corona, like through the COVID times? How is it inspiring you to keep your focus?
Ooh. Well, Leanne, we are like, in this sense, we met each other and had this synergy, right? So we had an understanding of each other on a heart level, and both of us are inspirers. Both of ours are like, we can have a lot of fire, and that's contagious. Okay, on a scientific level, that's like mirror neurons, because emotions are contagious, right? So this conversation is slightly contagious because there's a lot of alive emotion to it. It feels good in my body. I don't know how it will feel for everyone else, but that's what we want. That's what we want. So that's why Blisstout Network, and that I accepted my company called Awaken Living. I have sole proprietorship of Awaken Living, which I'm making media for, and the YouTube channel still in the works. But this is exactly what I think it goes hand in hand. I was mentioning this earlier, that we want to have a sense of support within community, that we align somewhat with one another, and that we can safely recommend one another, you know? So that's what I want, that the reliability, and not only that, I have to believe fully and completely in who you are. And I do. And that's like a big decision for me. I'm not going to say that lightly. I don't take that like that's I've done a lot of unconscious selection in my life to be at a point to consciously select who I want to be in my life. And then you understand that you're more the magnet, and that you're not, you know, putting things out there fruitlessly. You know, so we attract people in our networks that truly want to be there, that truly want to be there for community, that want to make the difference and the impact. And then we support and we help each other thrive. We don't ignite a fire in someone and then individualize them and say, go with the wind, see you later. Like, how do we feel? It's fine. Like, some of them will go more that way, and maybe they're meant to because they didn't align with us in the long run. But actually, literally, the secret to true happiness, some people might think it's money, and money comes into play, but it actually is healthy, loving relationships. That is the top of what is true happiness in the long term, in longevity in life.
Yes. And, you know, the same goes for me. Is I learned that same lesson, and why I brought it up was I want people to feel a commune. I want them to commune. And that was out of so many years of meditation. So I thought I'd bring it up because I know you're creating your own little community and network too. So how did I get, you know, introduced to doing that? Was what I was doing in the community. Conscious Living Radio was probably the best place for that. And then we're sharing all of this information in all the networks, and Unite's doing it too. So I'm so grateful that another person like you, and why I wanted to highlight that was to reflect, you know, the integrating of your network and the integrating of your process and what it's like to be on the other side and actually talk about it. Because, you know, we do Q&As for a reason, listeners. We do Q&A so you can feel a business, but we want you to feel the humanness of somebody who is dedicating themselves to the practice to show up for you. And that's why I believe in Daniel. And that's why I believe in the spark that we made when we met each other. And we obviously have some Egyptian past life karma, but I wanted to highlight the importance of that. Even it was an indirect question answer, because you were saying it the other day before we were talking. And I wanted that to lead into, you know, purpose, fulfilling, thriving, understanding is that we're all holding an individual place for this consciousness to thrive more, right? And I guess you could talk a little bit about the integrating. You just said a little bit about it, how you're doing these works. The acting, I still think needs to be talked about, because I think, you know, that you've been accepted, that's a huge deal. I mean, drumming for so long, but how do you think acting is going to play, you know, being a personal consultant? I think myself, it's music and it's singing. When you're living your passion, you can actually give more to your clients, right? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
10 months part-time acting, and now, you know, really wanted to make that plunge. Why I chose to do that, which might be a little bit atypical, okay, because we have this sort of like Hollywood dream thing, or a lot of us actually, I don't know, there are some highly conscious people that are like acting like you're being inauthentic on purpose to get something across. No, actually, like, I have a part of me that wants to play these larger than life big characters, and for that to purposely get across cause and effect, behavior psychology, you know, how we treat each other. Because I am someone that incepts a lot of these kind of like storyline ideas, and typically how we write or read books and stuff like that, we might not relate as much if it's not like a typical dialogue between two people, and the feelings and the reactions and the responses that happen in that space. So I've learned, I mean, I have quite a bit of confidence, and acting is an incredible challenge. And I love that. Why I also chose